I share what I'm listening to and my thoughts on music and the business daily for free at helloyassine.com. It was nearly 16 years ago that Drake was an up-and-coming artist who signed his very first record deal with New Orleans rap star Lil Wayne's Young Money Entertainment in conjunction with Birdman's Cash Money Records in 2009. At that time, Lil Wayne was flying high at the height of his success, having released his 8 times platinum blockbuster album The Carter 3 the year prior. Young Money Entertainment won a bidding war with multiple major labels that has been described as among the biggest in history, with Drake receiving a $2 million advance. Lil Wayne didn't choose Drake just to stroke his own ego by picking an artist that would never sell more records than him. It was quite the opposite. Lil Wayne admitted to seeing Drake having the potential to actually surpass him as a much bigger artist who wouldn't have the mainstream limitations of a more gangsta image. Lil Wayne explained his decision to bet big on Drake by saying, "When Drake's music was brought to me from the homie Jazz, my bro, it was about rap. And I was like, this dude sound different. What I loved about him was that he was sounding just as dope as we were. When I say we, us, who talking about the streets and what we done came from and what we doing. I told him, I was like, you literally could make working in a cubicle, like your everyday job is working in a cubicle. You know how to make that sound like the dopest thing in the world to do." And then one day I heard, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, I think it was on the hook. And I remember asking Mac Main, like, yo, who is that on the hook? He was like, that's him too. And I was like, you sing? 3 years later, after Drake signed his own record deal to Young Money Entertainment, Drake made the leap forward to co-found his own record label, OVO Sound, in 2012 with his partners, producer, and recording engineer Noah 40 Shabib and manager Oliver Al-Khatib. Now it was Drake's turn to go from artist to label owner, just like his mentor Lil Wayne. Initially, OVO began as a brand that had started off as a blog called October's Very Own, named after Drake's birthday month. The idea sparked after Drake met at Lounge, a clothing boutique in Toronto that Oliver worked at and Drake frequently shopped at. The October's Very Own blog highlighted music, fashion, and art that the crew enjoyed, as well as using the MySpace platform of the 2000s to promote Drake's music. With Drake's fame and financial fortune, OVO was able to become an apparel brand of its own in 2011, and the record label extension of the brand OVO Sound began the following year. But when you consider that Drake is an artist who has since become a one-man record industry with over 170 million records sold worldwide, it's strange to see that the entire roster that Drake has chosen to represent OVO Sound with haven't even managed to sell, half of that amount combined. Has Drake just been way too busy in the last dozen years or so to concentrate on the careers of his handpicked performers? Is Drake's competitive spirit too strong to allow him to see his future replacement emerge from his own label? Or did the OVO roster not reach their expected potential because of an industry rumor that has been widely known as the, quote, OVO sweatshop? The so-called OVO sweatshop is a term that was coined by academics at the earliest and emerged across multiple online posts to describe the conspiracy that Drake allegedly exploits and then neglects the artists associated with his OVO Sound record label in order to suck up all their greatest and influence for himself in order to maintain relevancy and reign in the music industry. In order to find any truth in this theory, let's just take a look at what has happened to the careers of all the artists that have either signed to OVO Sound or come close to doing so. During PARTYNEXTDOOR's first Toronto show in 7 years, the singer stood on stage next to his OVO Sound boss Drake at History, the Toronto music venue Drake co-owns with Live Nation. Drake addressed the audience and party with a massive compliment. "I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything. I know you hate this the most. I'm so grateful for you. I would not be the artist I am if it wasn't for you. This is really my favorite artist in the world." Not to mention teasing an upcoming album with PARTYNEXTDOOR as well. There are many reasons why Drake's high praise of PARTYNEXTDOOR makes total sense. PARTYNEXTDOOR is the very first artist that OVO Sound signed in 2013. He has remained loyal to the label and never left. As a Canadian R&B singer with a Jamaican mother and a Trinidadian father, PND represents the multicultural melting pot that Toronto and its surrounding cities like Mississauga, where PARTYNEXTDOOR was raised, have been known for. And PARTYNEXTDOOR also happens to be the most successful non-Drake signing to OVO Sound by far. First off, PARTYNEXTDOOR has put out more EPs and albums than the rest of his label mates, with a total of 7 as of 2024. Out of those 7 projects, 4 of them have been certified gold, selling over 500,000 copies, which include his first EP, PARTYNEXTDOOR, and his first 3 albums, PARTYNEXTDOOR 2, PND 3, Party Mobile in 2020. Compared to the rest of the signed roster, there is yet to be another artist other than PARTYNEXTDOOR to have a project exceed gold certification in sales. Also, when it comes to singles, Party Next Door has the most high-selling songs as well, with a total of 9 getting gold or better, with the biggest being Come and See Me featuring Drake at 5 times platinum, Recognize featuring Drake at 4 times platinum, and Loyal featuring Drake at 2 times platinum. Speaking of Drake collaborations, Party Next Door has the most songs featuring his boss out of his label mates, and he's the only artist on OVO Sound that Drake has ever decided to do an entire album with their joint project being announced back in the summer of 2024. It all began with how Party Next Door made his way to OVO Sound, becoming their first artist after being turned down by the Weeknd. After launching his career during high school in Mississauga, a city next door to Toronto, while making music in his bedroom under the name Jaron B, learning to produce his own beats, and networking on the MySpace music social media site. Eventually, he got discovered on the platform by his old manager, who paid for all the expenses for Party to relocate from Mississauga in Canada to LA at 17, stating, "My mom was giving me $50 every 2 weeks to pitch in on groceries. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I gotta pay my mom back this $50. Those were the things in my prayers every night. That drove me. Like, I gotta get this deal." At 18, Party did in fact sign a publishing deal with Warner Chappell as a songwriter. After writing many songs that never came to fruition, he relocated from LA to Miami and began writing the more reckless party songs that he would later become known for, that represented the life he was living at the time as a young guy in South Beach, partying with the adults that made up his management team. But after realizing that his very raw and personal songs seemed to only be tailored to him at the time, he changed his focus from songwriting for others to becoming a solo artist. His stage name then became Party Next Door, taken from the title of an audio filter in the Fruity Loops studio software program that he assured producer Noah 40 Shabib might be using to create his underwater ambient sound for Drake. In early 2013, before Party even turned 20 later that summer, his music made its way to the OVO camp that had in the back of his mind as an inspiration. The label's co-founder Oliver received Party's music from frequent Drake producer Boy Wonder, who sent him songs from an email address Oliver didn't recognize. "I'll just listen to anything. I give my email address to anybody. I was getting these emails from a random address and I started listening and it was crazy. So I hit back like, send me more. I need to hear more. Because that's how I gauge how consistent it is. Is it two flukes or is this like a sound? Is this cohesive?" He kept sending me more, and I started to get really into it and playing it for 40 and for the boy. This led to OVO producer Boy Wonder getting a callback from Oliver the next day, and Drake himself not long after, both confirming how impressed they were with Party. The very first in-person meeting Party Next Door had with OVO happened in the back of Oliver's Range Rover in Toronto, with Oliver describing Party by saying, "He's the rare breed that writes, produces, engineers, performs, sings, all in one artist. He's pulling all of the strings. He's doing everything. So you hear his final production exactly the way he envisions it. That is a privilege for any artist. You look at the only other artists that are able to manipulate like that, and it's Kanye West." After signing in 2013, Party Next Door wasted no time getting to work and was given the opportunity to work with Drake right away, providing background vocals for Own It and Come Through on Drake's 2013 album Nothing Was the Same, and producing and co-writing Legend, Preach, and Wednesday Night Interlude on 2015's If You're Reading This It's Too Late, featuring on those last 2 songs. 2 months before the release of Nothing Was the Same, Party dropped his own self-titled debut EP, which earned rave reviews and yielded Break from Toronto. The following year, Party Next Door 2 cracked the top 20 of the Billboard 200. However, after such a rapid-fire approach, Party Next Door's solo output was much less frequent in the subsequent years, with Party focusing more on songwriting. Tyler Henry, Party Next Door's manager since 2014 and his Range Media managing partner, first met Party in 2013 while working as an assistant road and tour manager for Drake during the Would You Like a Tour run. Also manages Wonder Girl, Harv, and LaShendrix. He summed up the impact of his biggest client's career by saying, "He has written some of the biggest songs of our time. He has contributed to work by some of the greatest artists. He's an artist himself. He's truly one of one." One superstar that Party Next Door was able to have incredible success writing for was none other than Rihanna, beginning with when she hosted a writing camp for what would become her 2016 album Anti at her Malibu, California home in 2015. When Party was asked to take part, he entered her house that was full of other songwriters and producers who were competing for placements. But Party boldly insisted on spending time alone with Rihanna to customize songs to her lifestyle, a personalized form of songwriting that has fueled his own successful solo career. His manager, Tyler Henry, talked about the night Party Next Door on Rihanna's diamond-selling international hit, Work, that featured Drake. "I remember her telling us she was drinking vodka and water at that time. I had never seen Party drink vodka until that night. I think he even smoked a cigarette because she had smoked. Seeing the way he spoke to her and the questions he asked and the way he fully submersed himself into her identity was what made that song special. And he does it with all the artists he works with. He doesn't write these generic songs that we try to find a home for. He writes them very purposefully for that artist. While Rihanna's work remained at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 in March of 2016, Party broke through with his own Drake-assisted single Come and See Me that earned him his debut Hot 100 entry as a lead artist, peaked at number 55, and garnered him his first Grammy Award nomination for Best R&B Song. Aside from Party's OVO sound releases as a singer, there have been many other big tunes that PARTYNEXTDOOR co-wrote and or produced for other artists. For instance, Party's first credit on a Kanye West song was Waves from his 2016 album The Life of Pablo. Even without being a single, this song still went 3 times platinum anyway, and contains uncredited vocals by Chris Brown and Kid Cudi. Oddly enough, Ye, Chris Brown, and Kid Cudi would all end up being enemies of Drake at various points in his career. Party and Ye reunited 2 years later on Wouldn't Leave and Ghost Town on the 2018 album Ye, and the latter song earned PARTYNEXTDOOR's highest charting hit at the time on the Hot 100 at number 16. Party and his frequent collaborator, Prep Bijan, who's signed to JA Publishing Group, PND's joint venture with Warner Chappell Music, co-wrote and co-produced Let Me from Usher's 2016 album Hard to Love. DJ Khaled pulled in PARTYNEXTDOOR to help write several records on his 2017 album Grateful, including Wild Thoughts featuring Rihanna, Shining featuring Beyonce and Jay-Z, along with being featured on Down for Life with Future, Travis Scott, Rick Ross, and Kodak Black. Party also co-wrote the song Maria for Christina Aguilera's 2018 album Liberation alongside Ye, who also co-produced the song. Party even co-wrote the Travis Scott-assisted song called The Blinding from Jay Electronica's 2020 debut album, A Written Testimony. Even as PARTYNEXTDOOR's song catalog rose from nearly 650 million on-demand US streams in 2022 to 1.1 billion streams in 2023, according to Luminate, Party still manages to seem like a mysterious figure, as do many of the artists other than Drake that are signed to OVO Sound. Party summed up the reason for his lack of stardom by simply saying, "I get into relationships and then music becomes second. I'm just keeping the main thing the main thing. The only thing that's important that has changed my life is dropping music. I'm not worried about the fame." The second signing to OVO Sound was MAJID JORDAN, consisting of singer and songwriting Majid El-Maskati, who was born and raised in Bahrain, and producer Jordan Kenneth Cook Ullman from Toronto. They first met as students at the University of Toronto, specifically at Majid's 21st birthday party at a Toronto bar that Jordan was invited to. The two future music partners were introduced by Majid's cousin. But Majid wasn't at the University of Toronto to pursue music. When I arrived from Bahrain, I was studying business, and it was in my dormitory that I really got into experimenting with music and my voice. We were messing around making funny songs about classmates. Someone said, "Hey, you can actually sing and write songs." I started to do a few open mics, and then at my birthday party, I met Jordan, and we started talking about doing music together. Within a day, he hit me up with the beat, and I realized he was the real deal. Because I was due to return to Bahrain, we had one summer to finish a project. That ended up being the first tracks we put up on SoundCloud. Before they were known as MAJID JORDAN, they called themselves Good People, and their After Hours EP that was recorded between Jordan's dorm room and his parents' basement was uploaded to SoundCloud and is what caught the attention of co-founder of OVO, 40. Not long after getting emailed by 40, MAJID JORDAN began cutting demos with the OVO crew. The songwriting and producing team discussed how they were brought to OVO's studio in 2013, while sessions for Drake's Nothing Was the Same were taking place, and they created Hold On We're Going Home. They basically put us in the studio. It was like a studio camp almost. There were tents in there. Make beats, stay in the dungeon, you cannot leave. You can't tell anyone you're working on this project. Literally tents. Real tents in the vocal booths. Everything. I slept in a tent in the studio. We put it on a USB for Drake to drive home to one night. He drove home, we showed up the next day, and he had tracked it. 40's sitting there with his arms up in the studio, and he's like, "We got it. We've got the single. We did it." Hold On We're Going Home became a 9 times platinum blockbuster song for Drake, and MAJID JORDAN were well on their way to becoming artists in their own right with the release of their debut EP in 2014 called A Place Like This, to much fanfare. Their self-titled debut album arrived in 2016, and Jordan Ullman explained relocating to California to create it. "We relocated to LA to work on the album, and before we touched down, Majid and I really knew what our intention was. We were thinking about mood, and once we arrived, we immediately started to create tracks and got the chance to work with our good friends, Paul 1985 Jeffries, producer of Hotline Bling, and Ilangelo, producer for The WEEKND. LA was so important in terms of the growth for our sound, and once we felt we'd finished, we flew back to Toronto to arrange a cohesive album. Hold On We're Going Home is so big that, unfortunately, it set the expectations so high that MAJID JORDAN was never able to achieve that level of undeniable global success ever again. They continued to release critically acclaimed music and high-quality projects, maintaining a steady calendar of performances. Their headlining tours have included the MAJID JORDAN Tour in 2016, MAJID JORDAN Tour 2 in that same year, the Space Between Tour in 2018, Wildest Dreams Tour in 2021, Good People Live in 2023, and Good People Live Part 2 in 2024. After releasing their second album, The Space Between, in 2017, and their third album, Wildest Dreams, in 2021, they made a return to their roots by calling their 2023 album Good People, in reference to their original group name. With Good People, MAJID explained how they made an effort to come back to their original ways of working. There were times when we weren't physically in the same room and making things and making ideas. We just got back to the roots where, in the initial project, it was just Jordan and myself. There was a special energy in the room. I've been away from home for so long. The pandemic hit and I didn't see my parents for a long time. I'm privileged enough to have a family that loves and cares for me, and I don't go visit them. I'm so absorbed by this career that's focused on this side of the world. Jordan traveled with MAJID to Bahrain to be able to work on music for the Good People album in MAJID's homeland for a change after over a decade of creating in Canada and the US, confirming the family vibe that the partners have established after over a decade in the music industry. MAJID has even thanked Drake for his brotherhood and going above and beyond just being his record label boss. He was the reason why I emigrated to Canada. He sponsored me and he gave me a work visa. So he got me a work visa and then bought my first laptop for me. He gave me a monthly allowance to get settled, found my first apartment for me, and changed my life. The next artist to be signed to OVO Sound was Roy Woods, from Brampton, a city near PARTYNEXTDOOR's hometown of Mississauga that's also part of the Greater Toronto Area, or also known as GTA. Much like PARTYNEXTDOOR and MAJID JORDAN, Roy Woods has also stayed committed to OVO since signing in 2014 and appears to have also remained in Drake's good graces. The Guyanese-Canadian singer Roy Woods grew up playing high school football, thinking he would aim for the NFL, but he eventually decided to move away from home where he lived with his mother and his sister, and lived with friends in downtown Toronto to pursue a music career as a rapper, going by the name Pression, short for depression. He actually took rapping very seriously until his management at the time convinced him to focus on his R&B and singing instead. Roy Woods had learned how to create songs where he had to say more with less words. Along with his crew of local creatives known as Unlock the Underground, Roy Woods was a self-sufficient young talent who was even shooting and editing his own videos and creating his own cover art for the music. Roy Woods' independent song All of You went viral online, leading to getting an Instagram DM from Drake's manager Oliver, who was interested in hearing more music. Then several months later, Roy Woods met Oliver at the OVO apparel shop, and not long after, Roy Woods became a member of OVO Sound while he was still a teenager. To date, Roy Woods' biggest song is Drama, the double platinum hit featuring Drake. Oddly enough, when the verses were laid down for Drama, Roy Woods still hadn't met Drake. They would later meet at Drake's Energy music video shoot, and then they linked up to do the ad-libs for Drama. At first, Roy Woods' output was steady, and his work ethic made up for his lack of major mainstream fame. His initial OVO Sound projects included his debut EP called Exodus on July 31st, 2015 that featured Drama with Drake, his debut album Walking Out at Dawn on July 1st, 2016, that was followed by his Nocturnal EP later that year on December 23rd, 2016, and his sophomore album Say Less on December 1st, 2017, none of them reaching gold or platinum sales. Roy Woods also enjoyed a pretty healthy performance life on the road, joining Drake and Future for the Summer 16 tour, headlining his own Unlock tour that same year, supporting Drake and Migos on the Aubrey and the Three Migos tour in 2018, and also headlining his Say Less tour in 2018 as well. But suddenly there was a gap, and Roy Woods didn't release any more music until 2020's Dem Times EP in May. The lack of projects from Roy Woods during 2018 and 2019 apparently had nothing to do with OVO Sound and was intentional because Roy Woods was so depressed that he was considering quitting music altogether. He struggled with substance abuse, was overwhelmed by pressures from the music industry, and had experienced so many heartbreaks that he even considered taking his own life. Then it also didn't help that the worldwide pandemic hit in 2020, preventing him from touring and pushing him to move back to Toronto after having relocated to LA. During quarantine, he took up gardening and cooking his own food, reconnecting with his early goals of pursuing culinary arts before he focused on music full-time. But he made his return back to music with his Mixed Emotions project in 2023 and Rolling Stone in 2024, and has been back to doing interviews and speaking about overcoming his personal struggles. When Roy Woods was asked by the Toronto-based Money Buys Happiness podcast about the rumors that artists get signed to OVO Sound and get stalled out while Drake gets all the shine, Roy Woods shut that down and explained that it hasn't been his experience at all.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
They can run with whatever narrative.
Yeah,
Facts. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? I don't feed into the negativity. You know what I mean? Like, we know what it is over here.
True.
Right? So I ain't got to second guess or look at that shit and be like, oh, well, I feel away. But for what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, look where you're at. Like,
I can pay my bills.
Yeah.
My mom's good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can fucking support me and my boys.
Yes.
We can support our families. We can, you know what I'm saying? Like, why am I going to be worried about what the fuck somebody got to say on some petty shit?
Yeah, it's true.
I got shit popping.
The artist that spent the shortest amount of time on the OVO Sound roster is Atlanta singer ILOVEMAKONNEN. That was only there between 2014 to 2016 and also had a pretty public split from Drake, much louder than the silent disappearances of ex-OVO members that we'll get into a bit later. By 2014, ILOVEMAKONNEN had built up a big buzz in the music industry. He had been dropping a steady stream of mixtapes since 2011 and was aligned with the new Atlanta wave of artists that were being produced by Sunny Digital and Metro Boomin. But it was ILOVEMAKONNEN's song Club Going Up on a Tuesday that got on Drake's radar. After Drake decided to give it the remix treatment by dropping a verse on it, the song was then renamed Tuesday and became the only lead single from ILOVEMAKONNEN to ever go platinum. After previously telling the media that he was going to stay independent, Drake must have given him an offer he couldn't refuse because he signed to OVO shortly after in 2014. But the union only led to a pair of EPs and Drake never collaborating with ILOVEMAKONNEN on any songs after Tuesday or even being seen around him. McKonnen felt like after he released his first self-titled EP that was fueled by the hype of his song Tuesday, it was all downhill from there with the label. It began to seem like there was plenty of pressure behind the scenes that was affecting McKonnen because he began to have conflicting opinions about the music business. In April of 2016, McKonnen released a statement about leaving OVO Sound. I cannot thank OVO, 40, Oliver, Future, and Mr. Morgan enough for all that they've done for my career. No words can express how much I appreciate Drake for being a part of the success of Tuesday. I'm sure the haters will have something negative to say, but all in all, my choice to be solely on Warner Brothers Records was the right thing for me and for my best interest. Sorry there's no beef to report. Drink more water. ILOVEMAKONNEN. But in a strange change of events, the following month in May, ILOVEMAKONNEN suddenly decided to inform the world that he was leaving the rap game entirely. Rap game whack, everyone flexed up except McKonnen, that's why I'm retiring. LOL, this is so good. The game don't need me. The game need more like me. More that will be themselves and not afraid like everyone else. It's all love. It's okay, guys. You have me until 2017. It's like for me to stay, I have to diss all these rappers and be negative. I don't want to do that. So I'll move on. How positive is that? The tension between McKonnen and his former OVO label seemed to have gotten worse when he painted the picture of how Drake and his crew clashed with them back in September of 2016 at a party. I was threatened by others, someone I so-called looked up to, saying, "We gon' F you up the next time we see you." And I was like, let me stop being me. I started to go back to, I'm just gonna go eat anything and just be hiding myself and stuff. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing that no more. I don't give a F. I'm me. And that's what led me to coming out and stuff. It was in the middle of the goddamn after party at the Up and Down Club. Everybody that was in there was in there. I'm in here around these Vanguard Awards and I'm accepted and I took pictures with Chainsmokers and G-Eazy and everybody and we all friends. And I'm here in the middle of the floor, no security, and they come in and I just step to the side and they see me and stop and the biggest mother effer in the game goes, woo woo woo, next time I'ma F you up. Some believe that those alleged threats from OVO may have been fueled by a Tim Westwood freestyle McKonnen did for the UK radio DJ prior to his appearance at the party. In the freestyle he said, "Mother effer say I got dropped, you know that's a mother effing lie. Only place I dropped is my goddamn pants size." Years later in 2023, McKonnen spoke about the assumption that OVO might have seen him as less marketable when he went from this chubby rapper to becoming much slimmer after losing weight, when he claims Drake clowned him when the two had a show together. When I came out on set and I started losing weight too, right? Drake had made a little joke like, he a little Eric Benet looking, you know, like haha. And then I just started to feel this vibe. As I was supposed to go into my verse, they just cut it. There were rumors that maybe OVO Sound lost interest in McKonnen after he came out while he was still signed to the label, but McKonnen shut down that gossip and denied that this was ever an issue. There was also the issue of McKonnen having posted negative tweets about Drake's song Practice back in 2011 before the two ever met. McKonnen admitted to these old comments and said that it was nothing personal and was just his way of trying to get attention at the time. Then, on September 5th, 2024, it seemed like McKonnen finally had enough of the negative side effects of the music industry and made another public retirement announcement. I'm retiring, I love McKonnen. Thank you all for your support and interest over the years. It's time I move on and go live my life. Heavy in the Streets is my last song. Thank you for being a part of my musical journey. Heart. See you in the streets filled with art. Paul Jeffries, better known as 1985, is the Canadian OVO sound producer known for making the music for many of Drake's massive hits like Hotline Bling and Hold On We're Going Home. But when he joined forces with R&B Daniel Daly and they became the Toronto duo whose name is spelled Division, DVSN, they were signed to OVO Sound in 2015, and after releasing the song The Line that same year, their very next 4 singles all went gold, which include With Me, Too Deep, Hallucinations, and Think About Me. The first 3 of those songs were all from Division's debut album, September 5th, that received rave reviews and made it onto many of the best of the year endlists. The very first Division concert ever wasn't until March of 2016 during the surprise OVO Sound takeover that also featured a Drake set at the South by Southwest Music Festival event called the Fader Fort in Austin, Texas. The onstage performance consisted of the singer Daniel Daly, a female DJ, and a backing gospel choir that was surrounded by purple smoke. Their debut album, September 5th, wasn't afraid to have songs lasting over 7 minutes, with a gospel influence and strong, soulful singing beyond the softer range that the OVO roster typically fell into. Even the down-tempo, psychedelic production stood out from the other alternative R&B offerings of that mid-2010s era. 1985 had Toronto producer 40 as a mentor since the two met when 1985 was in need of a mixer for a song he had produced. 40 and Drake's careers were rising fast at that time, and they had just finished up a North American tour with Lil Wayne. 1985 was working at H&M and was on break when 40 called him after having heard a song produced by 1985 on a local Toronto radio station and was congratulating him. 40 slowly brought 1985 into the OVO inner circle and taught the young producer how not to layer every single sound he could imagine into his tracks and to leave room for the vocals to sit better on the beat. The Division discography has continued to be released through OVO Sound and had gone on to include Morning After in 2017, the following year after September 5th drop, Amuse in Her Feelings in 2020, Cheers to the Best Memories with Ty Dolla $ign in 2021, and Working on My Karma in 2022. Even though none of their albums gained platinum plaques to the level of Drake or PARTYNEXTDOOR, Division has remained beloved by critics and fans and added variety to the OVO catalog. The duo's singer Daniel Daly described how things have changed in their career since the first album by saying, "I think we're a group that makes sure we're making moments, but also just tries to keep progressing the conversation of R&B. At the time that September 5th came out, there was nothing like it, right? Sonically, writing, vocally, it was kind of a new thing. That's still the idea that we have for what we're doing right now, because even though there are some differences in the sound, it's the ideology of Division that's still there, which is always being cool with being separate from the pack, being unapologetically on your own wave, in your own vibe, and I don't think there's anything like this album that's going on in R&B or that's going to come from R&B right now from any other male R&B singer or group. This is us trying to help reset the systems, refresh the palette, bring some more traditional R&B to the forefront as far as the sound, but then also still progress it with the writing and the topics and being very real about where we are today in relationship, in society, and the human experience." The Jamaican-born dancehall artist POPCAAN joined Vybz Kartel's Gaza music empire in 2008. And between 2010 and 2018, he released 2 mixtapes, 3 studio albums, and 3 EPs prior to signing with Drake's OVO Sound. POPCAAN was internationally known before signing OVO. As an example, in 2014, POPCAAN's debut studio album, Where We Come From, was released under producer Dre Skull's Mixpack Records and peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Reggae Albums chart. Then his sophomore album, Forever, was also put out through the same record label, with production primarily handled by Dre Skull, and it entered the Billboard 200 chart at number 17, which is the overall chart, and peaked at number 2 on the reggae chart. POPCAAN became a part of Drake's camp, particularly when Drake released his mixtape If You're Reading This It's Too Late, with its dancehall influence and patois ad-libs. On the song No Tellin', you'll hear an OVO Unruly shout-out, with Unruly being the name of POPCAAN's crew and record label in Jamaica. Then you'll find POPCAAN on the minute-long interlude near the end of Drake's song Know Yourself, on an a cappella version of his song Ghetto, Tired of Crying, from his debut album Where We Come From. Drake popped up as a surprise guest at POPCAAN's Unruly Fest in Jamaica, and while on stage he confirmed that the festival's founder POPCAAN joined the OVO Sound label, becoming its first dancehall artist, stating, "This is something we've worked on for a very long time. I just want to let everybody know, finally, officially, 2019 POPCAAN is signed to OVO." POPCAAN, who previously released albums Where We Come From and Forever via Mixpac Records, lends his talents to Drake on the 2016 Views album on the song Controlla, making his name ring even louder internationally. The song, which has been certified as 3 times platinum, went on to peak at number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. POPCAAN even defended Drake after fellow dancehall artist Mr. Vegas called out Drake for appropriating the style of Caribbean artists and not properly crediting where he got his inspiration from. POPCAAN retaliated with a warning: "Don't try and violate my brother now. You don't know anything about Unruly or OVO." Along with working with American rappers like Pusha T and Wale, POPCAAN previously collaborated with Snoop Dogg when he was going through his Snoop Lion Rasta phase on the 2012 single Lighters Up that appeared on the 2013 album Reincarnated. Fixtape was POPCAAN's 2020 project where the star really pushed dancehall into the rap and R&B realm with the help of collaborators like Drake, French Montana, and PARTYNEXTDOOR. POPCAAN has stated that he feels these musical genres coexist as part of the same extended family, with rap and R&B playing a part in helping to expand the reach of Jamaican dancehall on the world stage. POPCAAN told Grammy, "I want dancehall and reggae music to be out there just as much as hip-hop and R&B. I want it straight across the world, and not just me. I want a lot of stars just popping up, and I know that they're coming from my culture. That's my dream right now. By being around Drake and the whole connection, it gave me a lot of exposure. We have a chemistry where music is concerned, and whatever we do, it's always about just doing something great. Separate and apart from that, Drake is like my brother, like my big bro. When we're not working, we can have a bite like a family. Same way, we chill, we party, we share experiences with each other about when we was growing up and our musical journey. It's a very great link, and it's very good for my culture as well." POPCAAN is a dancehall artist, but he's also led by example when it comes to focusing on creating full bodies of work. He's encouraged other Jamaican artists to put out more albums instead of just pushing singles, which has stereotyped dancehall as a singles-based rhythm culture with sporadic songs being released by your favorite artist. POPCAAN shared his take on the importance of maintaining authenticity in the international market. "I have to care, because if I'm one of the biggest artists in dancehall music, I have to send the right product out into the world. If POPCAAN puts out a certain kind of music, it's okay for anyone who follows POPCAAN to do that too. So I have to keep that standard." But even with all the success and shoutouts, it seemed like the OVO Unruly union of Drake and POPCAAN fell apart in 2023 when POPCAAN dropped his very last project on OVO Sound. He had been signed to Drake's label since late 2018, but had a change of heart when he told Crack Magazine that, "I have so much music, the label can be weird sometimes. I love the label, but I don't like them. But I'll be independent soon." His last OVO Sound album, Great As He, was released on January 27, 2023, which featured Drake, Burna Boy, Tony Ann Singh, and Chronic Law, and debuted at number 3 on the Reggae Albums chart. Unfortunately, that chart position was lower than the opening week debuts of his previous 4 studio albums. POPCAAN's previous 3rd and 4th albums, Vanquish and Fixtape, were both released on OVO Sound, and they both debuted at number 2 on the Reggae Albums charts. Great As He was POPCAAN's 5th entry on the weekly Billboard Reggae Albums chart since he first began his music career in the late 2000s. Plaza's mysterious image of hiding himself in the shadows may have been in alignment with the tradition of his OVO label mates rarely doing a ton of interviews, but for Plaza, that secretive strategy may have backfired. Not only is there not a lot of information about Plaza for fans to engage with, he literally faded away from OVO Sound without any major announcements on either side, and only 9 songs released by Plaza on the label between 2017 and 2021. Plaza's introduction began during a June 2017 episode of OVO Sound Radio when co-founder Oliver made an announcement. "Before I leave, I gotta play Shadow, an EP by Plaza, the newest member of the OVO Sound family." Plaza was the first official signing to OVO Sound since February of 2016 when they inked a deal with R&B duo Division, a group that also had very little known about them at the time. Therefore, hearing Plaza's music before seeing him pushed listeners of OVO Sound Radio to go down a pretty empty rabbit hole of research to uncover who the Toronto-based singer was. This mysterious aura is similar to what surrounded The Weeknd when Drake discovered him. Photos of Plaza at the time were not very descriptive, with him basically peeking through the shadows of darkness. Even his name had zero context to it, with the artist explaining it by saying, "It's all about aesthetics. The name is a hard sound. AZA really hits. It's sort of abstract, but it's sort of short and punchy. There's no great meaning past that." Before he took on the stage name Plaza as an R&B singer, Michael Kaminsky was the frontman for Toronto rock bands such as Lobby and Decades in the early 2010s, with Decades having released a self-titled album in 2013, but once he decided to go solo, he made a total switch from singing rock songs to R&B with his 2016 EP One. Then, just a year after that in 2017, Oliver was making his radio announcement that Plaza signed to OVO, premiering the follow-up EP Shadow, a 5-track project. Plaza's most notable song in his OVO sound era was the standalone single All Mine that has over 96 million streams on Spotify alone. He landed on several blogs, but it wasn't until The Fader premiered his single Personal that things really started to take off, and when his social media presence seems to have begun, especially when it has been reported that the retweets on Twitter were rather low. Once they got a taste of Personal and discovered One, numerous publications placed him on their year-end Artists to Watch in 2017 list back in 2016. Toronto outlet Now Magazine and major U.S. outlets like BuzzFeed and Complex seemed to get the vibe that the young singer was onto something. With his ghost-like falsetto voice and more like sexual electro mood music, even Plaza understood why he was getting compared to The Weeknd, but that doesn't mean that he liked it. Yeah, I can see that, but I don't like to make comparisons. I'm really trying to be my own artist. Just as Plaza seemingly faded into the music scene, he made his disappearing act just as quietly, releasing not even a single song on OVO Sound after Touch and Go, November 30th, 2018, for over 2.5 years. This long pause finally ended on June 5th, 2021, when Plaza dropped his titled song, Still Alive, a single that led up to the October 1st, 2021 release of his very first album, Nocturnes. Just the 11 songs on Nocturnes alone are more than the total amount of material he dropped with OVO. Coming out of the shadows in 2021, Plaza seemed completely energized, releasing more music than he ever had before, including his second album, the 9-song project Avalon that was released on October 27, 2023. With several additional singles like Emily, I've Got Nothing, and Favors, in 2024 and onward, it's clear that Plaza's ready to make up for lost time as an independent artist. But not many people are still talking about him, nor has he really made any songs that we can recall or look up with Drake. OVO Sound has had a history of having more success with signing singers than rappers. After PARTYNEXTDOOR, MAJID JORDAN, Roy Woods, MAKONNEN, Division, POPCAAN, and Plaza, nothing but singers, Drake finally pushed a button on another rapper. In 2017, BAKA Not Nice signed to OVO, and over the years has appeared on several Drake songs. From Time featuring Janae Aiko from Nothing Was the Same in 2013, Free Smoke and Galchester from More Life in 2017, and Talk Up featuring Jay-Z from Scorpion in 2018. When it comes to BAKA's own music, he dropped his full album 4 Milli back in 2018, with the biggest songs being the gold-selling Live Up to My Name, which was a full-on reference track by Drake given to him after he had finished his prison sentence, Dope Game, and Money in the Bank. Since then, there have been some additional songs like My Town featuring Giggs, Caddies featuring Juicy J, and Thinking About Drillin'. But unfortunately, even as the rare rapper to get signed to OVO, there seems to be more known about his criminal record than his musical records. BAKA Not Nice is Drake's longtime friend and former bodyguard and has been quick to show that he has Drake's back whenever others get on the boss's bad side. When Houston rapper Sauce Walka was coming at Drake, BAKA stepped in with some retaliatory words in a since-deleted Instagram post. On September 11, 2024, several months after the Drake and Kendrick Lamar battle tracks had died down a bit, Kendrick Lamar dropped a new song as the 2024 MTV VMAs were gearing up. In a public display of loyalty to Drake, BAKA Not Nice chimed in with his thoughts on a TikTok post from DJ Academic's post about the song. Ish sound like how them shoes look, lil dude. BAKA Not Nice was riding for Drake against Kendrick, but he was also probably upset with the Compton rapper because his name was mentioned along with Drake's longtime security guard Chubbs and PARTYNEXTDOOR on Kendrick Lamar's infamous Drake diss Not Like Us. They tell me Chubb's the only one that got your hand-me-downs, and Party at the Party playing with his nose now, and BAKA got a weird case why is he around. This led to many people looking into BAKA Not Nice's past crimes again to see exactly which weird case Kendrick was talking about. In the early 2000s, he did time for armed robbery and assault. He's also got an assault conviction from 2015 for putting his hands on his ex-girlfriend. The 2015 assault conviction stems from BAKA Not Nice pleading guilty to assaulting a 22-year-old Toronto woman who was reportedly his on and off again girlfriend at the time. The incident took place in 2014. According to Crown Attorney Catherine Rogozinski, the assault went down after the woman came home to discover BAKA passed out drunk while French fries were burning in the oven. She began to criticize him, which led to BAKA pushing her down to the floor, where she allegedly cried for an hour. He apologized, but the woman ultimately called police a week later. BAKA pleaded guilty to the assault on his ex, and in exchange there was a dismissal of some other unrelated firearm charges. But the court still hit him with a 6-month prison sentence for the crime, being that he had already been locked up for approximately 11 months after an initial arrest in 2014. He was free to leave the court. But the weird case that Kendrick Lamar was most likely referring to is BAKA's arrest back in 2014 on allegations of human trafficking and firearm offenses. Throughout all this, OVO and Drake have mostly remained quiet about the case against BAKA. Neither side really addressed the human trafficking allegations. That silence hasn't stopped some fans from questioning the hypocrisy of keeping BAKA on OVO after Drake accused Kendrick of being violent towards his fiancée, with Drake saying when he got out of jail there was a lot of different paths he could have took and he decided to focus on music. When BAKA was incarcerated, Drake gave him a shout out on the song Know Yourself, rapping, "I might declare it a holiday as soon as BAKA get back on the road." When BAKA was released on April 7, 2015, Drake celebrated the moment by giving BAKA an appreciative public cosign on Instagram. After signing BAKA in 2017, OVO Sound continued to try to break the stigma of not wanting any other rappers on the label other than Drake by rolling the dice on SMILEY, the off-kilter artist from Toronto, some might say garbage artist. SMILEY didn't start rapping until he got expelled from school in 11th grade, saw friends of his freestyling, and suggested that they record something in the studio. That was where they created their first song, Too Much, in 2014 as the Toronto rap crew Garden Gang. SMILEY would continue to make music in between legal issues, an arrest for a gun charge, and his freedom being restricted on house arrest. In 2015, SMILEY released Garden Girl, which is a song that made him stick out from his Garden Gang crew with the potential to carry on as a soloist. Even though Garden Girl was a song for local women, SMILEY still came across more aggressive than he does currently. SMILEY's intentions in the beginning was to sound more melodic, but the way his voice dragged when he stretched out his syllables became the style that he ran with. His song 9 on Me that was released in 2015 was the song that garnered the attention of Drake's producer Boy Wonder, who spread the word about SMILEY to Drake. Unfortunately, when the video for 9 on Me was released in July 2015, SMILEY just happened to be in jail for a gun charge. 9 on Me was still making noise in Canada though, and when SMILEY was set free from jail in 2017, Drake publicly celebrated with him, which increased the rapper's recognition and the amount of music he started releasing. From 2018 onwards, SMILEY began dropping a project a year with the first installment of the Buy or Buy series, along with A Tape to Remember, The Road to Buy or Buy 2 in 2019, and YYZLAX in 2020. Being that Drake has publicly stated that SMILEY's music was an inspiration for his 2018 Scorpion album, it was clear that the impact was growing. Once SMILEY was able to cash in on the Drake stimulus package and have a Drake feature on his 2021 song Over the Top, a track that was recorded and held onto for a year and a half, it would explode as his biggest hit to date. Soon after Over the Top released in July 2021, it was announced that SMILEY was officially signed to OVO Sound Warner Records. This was the big single from SMILEY's Buy or Buy 2 album that was released in November of 2021. Over the Top took off on TikTok and digital streaming platforms, with the track getting streamed over 178 million times on Spotify alone since July 2021 and reaching number 57 on the Billboard Hot 100, his first ever and potentially last charting song. But by no means was SMILEY going to just try to live off of Over the Top and get lazy. I want a song as successful or more successful than Over the Top by myself. Like, not even no other feature for my next thing. For my next thing, I want to keep being more consistent. I want to just keep growing as an artist. I want to be more like, I want to make more songs like You Ain't Ghost. I want to just be all over the place. I just want my work ethic to keep growing. Also, when all those happen, I want to continue my weight loss journey. I want them both to be at the same time, you know? Like, I blow up and you might actually see the weight dropping. Those two things are my top priorities because it would help my career too. Just performance-wise and looking better on camera, feeling better, you know? Even though Warner Music isn't helping OVO Sound push SMILEY's music anymore, SMILEY's still proving to be an OVO artist that's wildly different from the dark and moody, great music of the earlier wave of the roster. Smiley's name says it all. He has a big sense of humor and is a very likable and colorful personality, but still grounded with his background in the Toronto streets. He isn't hiding from the audience to build up his mystique. He's right in front of his fans' faces on social media, sharing his ongoing journey towards fitness. And with the release of his 9-song I Did What I Did EP in 2023 and a steady stream of singles ever since, like Spill the Tea and Understand in 2024, Smiley's also benefiting from releasing a flood of music compared to the slower stream of drops from his label mates. Will that work for him? I'm not entirely sure because his name hasn't been in conversation, nor has his music, since Over the Top. NAOMI SHARON is the Caribbean Dutch singer who went from a flourishing career in musical theater to the first lady signed to Drake's OVO Sound label. The dream became a reality when Drake messaged NAOMI SHARON on Instagram in 2019 with a request for her to send him music when she only had 3 songs out. I didn't really believe it. I took it seriously, but at the same time, yeah, we'll see. I didn't realize that I was going to end up at OVO. At that moment, she was an outsider in the music industry, but had developed her musical talent singing and playing piano in her home as a child of an Aruban father who was a DJ and a Dutch mother who was a singer. She grew up listening to Stevie Wonder, Sting, and Sade in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, studying theater in school, dropping out to go full force towards her career, participating in the music game show The Voice Holland, and going on to perform in theater productions like The Lion King, Dreamgirls, and Tina the Musical. Once NAOMI SHARON was at the point of doing 8 theater performances a week for 3 years, she ended up needing to undergo vocal surgery, pushing her to step away from her musical theater work and make her singing and songwriting hobby a full-time pursuit while she was recovering from her operation. Once she became a full-time music recording artist, what was the process like for NAOMI SHARON when she began working on her first album for OVO Sound? She described what it was like to come to Toronto for what ended up being 7 weeks, traveling over with writer and producer Bone Knox and working at the studio of 40. They're very easygoing at OVO. They were like, just make as many songs as you can and then we'll figure it out. I was like, no, I need a goal. I was planning to go to Toronto for 3 weeks to record a little bit, and I was already planning, they're telling me not to go into album mode, but let's do it. Let's see if we can do an album in 3 weeks. We ended up in the studio making a song every day, which is very special. It was a really tough period for me, because I was going through a lot of emotional turbulence when it came to my love life, but it really helped me to dig deeper and tell a truthful story which people can relate to eventually. But some of the fuel behind NAOMI SHARON's songs of heartbreak and romantic drama played out in the media when her former fiancé, R&B singer Jamie Sun, posted a very telling confession of what he claimed really happened when Drake flew him and NAOMI SHARON out to the US for her to work on Drake's Certified Lover Boy album in 2021. Without naming names, Jamie Sun made it extremely clear that he considered Drake to be a homewrecker who had an affair with NAOMI SHARON and ruined their relationship when screenshots of Jamie Sun's alleged Instagram post went viral. Imagine having the most beautiful, supportive, and faithful relationship 8 years long with an engagement and wedding planned. A beautiful woman on your side as ride or die. Then this major opportunity comes and a world star calls your fiancé to sign a record deal, flies you both over, and then out of nowhere all the trust is vanished with knives in your back and your heart. Well, was she really a ride or die if she had the opportunity and she just went? Pretty soon, Drake fans started putting 2 and 2 together and figured out that the world star that Jamie Sun was referring to was Drake, especially when pictured recording vocals in an IG post by Drake's photographer, Theo Kudra, until that post was quietly taken down after the affair allegations started swirling around. Jamie Sun then went on to confirm in a second post that he and NAOMI SHARON were no longer together, stating, "I'm no longer with the person people think I'm together with. I am no longer with the 8 years I thought I was together with. I am no longer with the engagement I thought I was together with. I am no longer with broken trust I was brought together with. I am no longer with the pain I thought I was together with. I am now with the acceptance I want to be together with. I am now with the healing I want to be together with. I am now with the most beautiful and powerful light the stars have brought me together with. I am now with the conspiring of the greatest things the universe want me to be together with." Being that this gossip about Drake and NAOMI SHARON sleeping together emerged during Drake's Certified Lover Boy album cycle, a project that literally has a dozen pregnant women emojis as the cover art, it may have just been another publicity flex for Drake to confirm that he was really living the life he was bragging about. But for NAOMI SHARON, an artist that audiences were just starting to get to know, it tainted her image and made her look sleazy. These rumors about Drake allegedly having an affair with his first female OVO artist were neither confirmed nor denied by either of them publicly, But the possibility of Drake breaking up a relationship wasn't hard for many to believe because he has pushed his certified lover boy image in people's faces throughout his career to the point that it has become a part of his many feuds with other artists. During Drake's brief beef with Chicago rap legend Common in 2011, it reportedly stemmed from their romantic connections to tennis star Serena Williams. Drake's physical conflict with singer Chris Brown at a New York City nightclub in 2012 sparked from Drake allegedly bragging about sleeping with Chris Brown's girlfriend, the Bajan singer Rihanna. The rapper Tyga and Drake, who used to be Young Money Entertainment label mates, got into it on social media over Tyga's former girlfriend Blac Chyna in 2014. Then in 2018, Ye was upset with Drake for following his soon-to-be ex-wife Kim Kardashian on Instagram, the same year of the infamous Pusha T and Drake battle that Ye was connected to. In fact, on Kendrick Lamar's Drake Diss Not Like Us, he reminds the world that Drake was even willing to break the, quote, bro code and sleep with his friend and mentor Lil Wayne's girlfriend, the video vixen Tammy Torres, when Lil Wayne was incarcerated in Rikers Island. Kendrick Lamar rapped, "Effed on Wayne girl while he was in jail, that's conniving. Then get his face tatted like a chick apologizing." Although, that seems to have been cleared up as a misunderstanding. As the 2021 controversy of Naomi Sharon's love life faded away, she released her debut album, Obsidian, in October of 2023 to moderate acclaim. This led to the opportunity to take her performance experience on the road to headline her own 7-date Obsidian tour in the first half of 2024 and continue on as an opening act in select cities during the second half of 2024 for the Nigerian singer Tems on her Born in the Wild tour. Forbats, the Dallas, Texas R&B singer that caught listeners off guard with his pitched-up songs and by coming out dressed like a drill rapper, started his music career in 2023 with his debut single Act 1, Stickers 99, gaining mainstream attention. He followed that song up with a bigger hit called Act 2, Date at 8 in December of 2023. With the help of a video performance for the song, Act 2, Date at 8 went viral on TikTok. The song became Forbats' first appearance on the Hot 100, peaking at number 59. Just the very next month in January of 2024, Ye made it known that Forbats was his favorite new artist and gave him a big public cosign. The next song, Act 3 On God, was released on March 3, 2024, but the hype really turned up 5 days later when a remix of Act 2 Date at 8 featuring Drake was released via OVO Sound on March 8, 2024, pushing the song to the top 10 of the Hot 100. Then the very next day, Forbats signed a one-off recording deal with OVO Sound just for the release of his debut EP, which came as a shock for an artist that seemed to appear out of nowhere and didn't seem to have much leverage. The partnership between Forbats and OVO came at a moment when OVO had recently announced a collaboration with music executive Todd Moskowitz's Santa Ana label group, operating under Sony Music for distribution and marketing resources. Being that Forbats only signed to OVO Sound for one EP, did Drake only grab Forbats as a chess move to taunt Ye in their ongoing feud after Ye had put his stamp on Forbats just a few months prior? Did the rare short-term record deal mean that OVO only saw Forbats as a viral artist that they could quickly capitalize on who didn't have the potential for a long-term career? Whatever the reason was, Forbats was able to release his debut mixtape, You Made Me a Star, on May 3, 2024, through an entirely direct label, a media company called Gamma, and the mixtape included a remix of Act 3 On God with Ye. When the mega hit Act 2 Date at 8 featuring Drake didn't appear on the project, it led many to believe that Forbats and Drake were at odds with each other. Forbats downplayed having any problem with Drake by saying on May 5, 2024, "I ain't got no problem with that dude. I got the #1 mixtape in the world, and it's not even an album." The talk of Forbats and Drake having possibly ended their relationship behind the scenes amped up all over again later in the year when Forbats released yet another song called Hood Grammy, November 29, 2024, that also had nothing to do with OVO Sound. It was now looking like the only piece of music by Forbats that was given the OVO treatment was one song, Act 2 Date at 8 featuring Drake. Now, with over 8 months having passed by after it was announced that Forbats had signed to OVO for a debut EP and only one song instead of an entire EP, it just ended up looking like Forbats was next in line to get the so-called Drake stimulus package, where Drake hops on a new artist song to add the ownership of a new Billboard hit to his collection. Aside from the artists that actually signed on the dotted line to OVO, there were also the ones that were associated with Drake but never made the move. Some that stayed out of the so-called OVO sweatshop went on to do big things in the music industry. Unfortunately, there were others whose careers seemed to crash and burn. In many of the early Drake music videos such as Hell Yeah, Effin' Right, Worst Behavior, and Started From the Bottom, there was a comedic white guy with a big red beard in Drake's crew. This was a rapper named Obi O'Brien from Hamilton, Ontario. a city about 50 minutes south of Drake's Toronto home base. After meeting Drake during his transition between acting on the teen television series Degrassi and making music, they developed a friendship and working relationship that included both music and comedy skits. Obi O'Brien pursued both music and humor early on, briefly studying comedy writing at Humber College and appearing in a comedic 14-minute short film with Drake in 2008 called Us and Them, with the help of By Any Means Necessary Productions in Toronto, the company that produced music videos for Drake like Marvin's Room. During Drake's rise, Obi O'Brien released a handful of successful songs, including a remix of Tinashe's 2014 track 2 On featuring Drake, Hazelton Trump, as well as his biggest hit, Schemin' Up, featuring Drake and Preem that appeared in the Entourage movie. Along Steve Nash is another one of the Canadian entertainer Obi O'Brien's songs that showcased his fun and free-spirited image that stood out from Drake's more emotional and moody music of that early to mid-2010s era. Even though Obi was the life of the party in several humorous moments in Drake's videos, he posed no real threat to outshining Drake or taking over his lane. If anything, it seemed like a stand-up comedy or TV sitcom career could have been on the horizon. O'Brien was also the co-creator of Top Season, along with partner OVO Ryan, who happened to be Drake's cousin on his mother's side. The phrase popped up on a variety of OVO merchandise during 2013 and 2014 and seemed like it was going to become a brand on its own. But by 2016, the media was asking what happened to Obi O'Brien when he seemingly disappeared from the OVO Sound roster. No more guest verses and less frequent social media posts. It's unclear why Obi O'Brien decided to leave the spotlight. Even the Top Season social media blitz was gone, and there were only a few more contributions by Obi as more of a background player. In 2015, on Drake's If You're Reading This It's Too Late project, Obi O'Brien is credited as helping write and produce the song Energy. In 2018, on Drake's Scorpion album, Obi O'Brien also assisted with the writing and production on the track 8 out of 10. After years of questioning what happened and are Drake and Obi still cool, in November 2022, Drake did take the time to shout out the missing in action Obi O'Brien and thank him for supporting the OVO journey during Drake's winning streak at the Billboard Music Awards. Obi O'Brien showed how grateful he was for the acknowledgement on Instagram with the caption, "This life would be way less fun if we had never met." Not only was OVO Sound unable to sign the R&B and pop star The Weeknd the year they opened their doors for business in 2012, but ever since that happened, it seemed like they spent the rest of the 2010s trying to find and create their own version of him. With his edgy, sex, drugs, R&B version of singing and his mysterious persona early on during his mixtape days, The Weeknd has caused other Canadian OVO artists like PARTYNEXTDOOR, PLAZA, and Division to get compared to him. Party's name alone even resembles The Weeknd's leisure-inspired stage name that both sound like the title of a group instead of a soloist. They also both graphically sing about intoxicated, lustful encounters. Plaza had a similar nocturnal, synthesizer-heavy ambient sound to The Weeknd, and Division had a similarly purposely misspelled name, along with their private lives also largely concealed from the public, adding to their mystique. But how did Drake and The Weeknd, arguably the biggest artists in rap and R&B on the entire planet, go from being two of Toronto's biggest hometown heroes to long-term rivals? It ended up being more than The Weeknd deciding to build his own XO empire instead of becoming the first artist signed to OVO Sound. The relationship between Drake and The Weeknd began in 2010 when they were both in the early stages of creating their future global dominance. Drake introduced his fanbase to The Weeknd, who was still in the process of building his following at the time, by sharing two of his songs on Drake's OVO blog with the caption literally being "Introducing The Weeknd." Drake and The Weeknd would later meet in 2011 during one of The Weeknd's shows in Canada that would lead to The Weeknd collaborating on Drake's sophomore album Take Care that was released in November of 2011. The pair's first collab was shared with the world via the song Crew Love, which ended up being one of the standout tracks from Take Care, introducing an even wider amount of songs to The Weeknd's sound. But Crew Love wasn't the only collaboration between the two Toronto Titans on the Take Care album. The Weeknd also received writing credits for Shot For Me, Cameras and Good Ones Go Interlude, Practice, and The Ride. Following their successful collaborations in 2011, Drake tried to get The Weeknd to join OVO Sound. At the time, the singer was garnering a sizable buzz and he was getting closer and closer to stardom. Speaking to MTV in May of 2012, Drake discussed their relationship by saying, "As far as on paper, it's all being worked out, but that's not really what counts anyway. What counts to me is the fact that the affiliation is so known, and that's all I really care about." Even though Drake made it seem like he valued the relationship over business, that may have been because he assumed that The Weeknd was going to sign on the dotted line to OVO eventually. But The Weeknd decided to go a different way and chose to go with Republic Records instead. On December 11, 2012, Drake seemed to express his dissatisfaction with The Weeknd's decision to turn down OVO with the cryptic ultimatum when Drake tweeted, "You won't get away with just a thank you. You owe me a favor." Drake fans generally came to the conclusion that Drake felt betrayed by The Weeknd's decision to sign with Republic Records, but oddly enough, the two were back to working together in 2013. But the drama got charged up again when in an interview with Rolling Stone in October of 2015, The Weeknd shared his side of what it was like contributing to Drake's 2011 album Take Care. "I gave up almost half of my album. It's hard. I will always be thankful. If it wasn't for the light he shined on me, who knows where I'd be. And everything happens for a reason. You never know what I would say if this success wasn't in front of me now." Drake's producer and OVO sound partner 40 spoke up to defend Drake against the assumption that The Weeknd, who 40 refers to by his first name Abel, had his hand all over the entire Take Care when 40 said, "There's like 22 songs on Take Care. He contributed on 4 of them. There are 18 other songs on there where that guy was nowhere to be found, right? So it's like, yeah, cool. And you contribute to a few records on Take Care. Significant records, sure, but it was a few. It wasn't a lot. It's a common misconception. I made that whole album. I saw Abel maybe 2 days. I was in there for like a year." During 2016, The Weeknd and Drake had next to no public interactions, but they seemed to fix up their friendship a bit in February of 2017 when The Weeknd appeared during a stop in Germany on Drake's Boy Meets World tour. Then 3 months later in May 2017, Drizzy performed Crew Love with The Weeknd at 2 Toronto shows during the singer's Starboy Legend of the Fall tour. Drake even teased out the idea that there needs to be a Drake and The Weeknd joint album when he spoke to The Weeknd live on stage during the OVO Fest in August of 2017. "I want you to understand what this is. First of all, I don't want to do this to you on stage, but I feel like that OVO-XO project has to happen at some point. I just want to say that." But unfortunately, it seemed like the two superstars couldn't end the year without being in conflict again when rumors started spreading that Drake was dating The Weeknd's ex-girlfriend model Bella Hadid, with the hookup between the two being reported by Page Six in October of 2017. Bella Hadid mentioned that she and Drake were nothing more than friends, but this still didn't go over too well with The Weeknd. On January 11, 2019, the following year after Pusha T first exposed that Drake had a son that was being hidden from the public during the infamous Drake and Pusha T beef, The Weeknd released a song Lost in the Fire with French DJ Gesaffelstein that appears to poke fun at Drake's fatherhood situation with lyrics like, "And I just want a baby with the right one, cause I would never be the one to hide one." Then Drake seemed to downplay the rumors of a revived feud with The Weeknd several months later on the track War on Christmas Eve of 2019. "And the boy that sound like he sang on Thriller, you know that's been my dude, yeah. We just had to fix things, family 6 things, we can't split up." Even as Drake tried to convince his audience that he and The Weeknd had worked out their issues, such as sharing videos on Instagram on July 8th of 2022, where he showed viewers the place in Toronto where his manager Oliver first played The Weeknd's music for him, it became clear that The Weeknd wasn't through with his issues with Drake. On April 12, 2024, Metro Boomin and Future released their 25-song joint album We Still Don't Trust You as a follow-up project to their earlier release We Don't Trust You. The Weeknd showed up on the title track and also on All to Myself, where he seemed to reignite the Drake beefs with lyrics like, "Oh, look at how we moving, baby. They could never diss my brothers, baby. When they got leaks in their operation, I thank God that I never saw my life away. And we never do the big talk. They shooters making TikToks, got us laughing in the Lambo. I promise that I got your back." Even though The Weeknd didn't directly name Drake on the song, the line about being thankful to God that he didn't sign his life away seems pretty clear that he's talking about being happy that he didn't sign to OVO back in 2012. Drake supposedly felt like shots were fired in his direction because on April 14th, 2024, Drizzy's Push Up song fired back at all the rappers he felt were coming at him. Even The Weeknd as well, when Drake raps, "Claim the 6 and boys ain't even come from it. And when you boys got rich, you had to run from it. Cash blowing Able bread out here tricking. Ish we do for chicks, he doing for dudes." The Weeknd responded by sharing a photo of himself laughing on a couch with a bowl of popcorn, and his manager Cash XO posted a picture of himself with Future and Metro Boomin. It also didn't help that on April 29th, real gunshots were fired at Cash XO's Encino, California home, with the security guard getting hit and injured outside the $12 million mansion. Then, in a shocking turn of events, a very similar crime happened 8 days later on May 7, 2024, when Drake's security guard was also shot and seriously injured outside Drake's mega mansion in Toronto. Toronto rapper MOJI was an original member of Halal Gang that emerged in 2010 from the Regent Park section of the city, alongside other members like R&B singer Safe, spoken word artist Mustafa the Poet, rapper Puffy Els, and the deceased rapper Smoke Dogg. What once seemed like MOJI gearing up to be the newest member of the OVO inner circle turned into a violent clash. Back in 2016, if you remember the Drake line MOJI with the dance moves from the song Summer 16, this is the same MOJI that he was referring to. Drake popularized Moji's dance moves, the juggling hand gesture, Ginobili dance based on the San Antonio Spurs basketball player Manu Ginobili, and the videos for Hotline Bling and Energy, a dance Moji was becoming known for online. Drake also had a lyric on his song Jumpman where he raps, "I hit that Ginobili with my left hand like woo." Those Drake lines were similar to when Moji rapped on the song Still, switch it up with the left like Ginobili. Less than 2 months after Drake shouted out Moji in song form, Moji would accuse Drake in Instagram video clips of sucking up his energy and influence and calling out Drake's manager Oliver. Have you ever heard in the history of hip-hop a man who helps give away his creativity and makes Billboard hits but doesn't get paid $1 for it or one credit for it? Here's Stuck in the Hood? That doesn't make sense. But exposing these will. FUBANs, it's on. This Oliver told me that the whole OVO team thinks I deserve compensation for everything Drake took from me, and all the man just offered me is $500? $500? Can't even pay mama's rent. What are you, smoking, brother? Are you taking heroin? You look like you're on heroin, friend. Moji even alleged that Oliver said that Drake didn't like Moji and didn't want the young rapper to be on the music video set for the Rihanna song Work that Drake featured on. But instead of Moji's aggressive public roasting of Drake leading to any financial compensation or resolution to whatever Moji claimed was taken from him, it definitely led to a bloodied up Moji posting a picture of himself from the following week suggesting he was the victim of a violent assault by the OVO camp. The Instagram caption of Moji appearing with bruises and stitches stated, "When you speak from your heart, this is what happens," with the hashtags Dirty Society and Dirty Industry. Then there was Detail, the multi-platinum Grammy Award-winning producer whose production credits include working with Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Jennifer Lopez, Akon, Young Jeezy, T-Pain, and on Beyonce's smash hit Drunken Love that featured her husband Jay-Z in 2013. During that same year, Detail also racked up 3 production credits on Drake's Nothing Was the Same album for the songs Own It, 305 to My City, and Paris Morton Music 2. How did this coveted gig working with Drake end up so terribly bad for Detail? The friction came to light in June of 2016 when Detail made the legal claim that Drake had him beaten up after Detail refused to enter into an exclusive working agreement to become an exclusive producer in 2014. This opportunity didn't fit with Detail's career plans because he wanted his freedom to work outside the OVO camp. After turning down the offer, Detail alleged that Drake became furious and states that Drake later invited Detail to his Calabasas estate for a late-night music session that led to Detail getting his jaw broken after getting punched by Drake's bodyguard Chubbs. Allegedly, Drake's bodyguard Chubbs threatened Detail, saying, "I will beat all your asses, including your chicks. I don't give a F. I will hit you again. Do you think Drake is soft? You think Drake's a punk?" Then, over 6 years after the news of Detail's lawsuit against Drake was making its way in the news, it seemed that Detail had disappeared from the entire situation. When the trial was set to begin in September 2022, Drake reportedly claimed that Detail had gone missing ahead of the assault trial, and also claimed that Detail was supposed to give his deposition earlier that year in February but didn't show up or contact Drake's camp. In fact, Detail's own legal team was said to have dropped him as a client, forcing Drake's side to have to contact the producer directly and never hearing anything back in return. In addition, Detail even apparently failed to show up to a required medical examination for the case. The judge eventually threw out the case, and Drake referred to it in his 2019 song War with the lyrics, "I don't cop things for resale, don't do iCloud, don't do email. Feds want to tap up man and wire up man like Chubbs did Detail." Life got even worse for Detail after his dealings with Drake's OVO camp. During the Me Too movement of the late 2010s, Detail was hit with numerous SA allegations. Detail was arrested in August of 2021 and has since seen at least 30 charges filed against him, including forcible rape, assault by means of force likely to produce great bodily injury, forcible oral copulation, sodomy by use of force, and false imprisonment by violence. Among the many accusations, women testify that they had been trapped in Detail's studio and he attempted to force himself on them, or had done so in his vehicle while in the city of LA. Some of Detail's accusers included pop singer BB Rexa, R&B singer Tinashe, aspiring singer Peyton Ackley, and model Christina Bush, who won a $15 million lawsuit against Detail. In May of 2018, the Toronto singer Jessie Reyes even tweeted, "One night over 6 years ago, Noel Fisher, Detail, tried this on me. I was lucky and I got out before it got to this. Don't know what to say or who to tell. I was scared. Fear is a real thing. The girls that came out are brave as hell." Jessie Reyes confirmed all suspicions about who she was singing about on her song Gatekeeper, clarifying that it was Detail. "Yeah, this is who Gatekeeper is about. My experience didn't get this awful. I hope these women find justice." That song Gatekeeper by Jesse Reyes contained disturbing lines like, "Drink up, chick, we got champagne by the cases. Don't you know we are the gatekeepers? You know you're supposed to get drunk and get naked. $20 million in a car, girl, tie your hair up if you want to be a star. 30 million people want a shot, how much would it take for you to spread those legs apart?" As of 2022, it was reported that Detail was being held at the North County Correctional Facility in lieu of $6.29 million bail. Being that Detail has gone from having an almost annual run of major label production placements since 2005, it appears he may now be blacklisted in the music industry or is still drowning in legal troubles, with his later producer credit being the song Pineapple Skies, released back in December 1st, 2017 for Miguel. Let's take a look at another memorable name that came close to representing the OVO logo. That would be Bryson Tiller, who went from Louisville, Kentucky, working part-time jobs at UPS and for Papa John's Pizza, to becoming a 3-time Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter. On October 9, 2014, back when Bryson Tiller was 21 years old, he released the single Don't on SoundCloud, and the song helped catapult him into high demand. Keep in mind that his debut album Trap Soul emerged less than a year later on September 25th, so the industry was ready to capitalize off of Bryson Tiller's talent. But it would end up being RCA Records and not OVO Sound that he signed with. Bryson Tiller opened up about what caused him not to sign to Drake's OVO during an interview with The Breakfast Club, revealing that he initially reached out to Drake, even during the time RCA Records had flown Bryson Tiller out to New York for a meeting. "I was really just trying to make that happen because I remember some of the text conversations we had. Drake was like, 'I want to sign you to OVO,' and I was super inspired. I texted him like, 'Yo, man, they got me up here in New York. I really want to sign to OVO. I just hope we can have a conversation about it.' He just never texted me back. And I was just like, I guess that's everything I need to know right there. It didn't even matter about the money. OVO didn't have to match nothing. Just give me some reassurance and let me know that you're rocking with me. Everybody's in my ear right now talking about this, that, and the third, and I won't believe them. I'll trust you." Bryson Tiller's Trap Soul album would go on to big success under the RCA umbrella, selling over 3 million copies with the help of 4 Canadian producers such as Boy Wonder, T-Minus, Wonder Girl, and Frank Dukes that are known for their work with Drake, who didn't feature on the project at all. This omission seemed strange considering that Drake had previously wanted to sign Bryson Tiller to OVO Sound, but the singer confirmed that there were no hard feelings between him and Drake, who he said even invited him out to a club shortly after he signed his deal. Bryson also claimed that 40 encouraged him to consider taking the deal with RCA Records. "It felt like fate that I was supposed to sign with OVO. I remember a few days before I signed to RCA, 40 had called me and was like, 'Yo, man, this is actually a great deal. I haven't seen a deal like this in a long time.' He thought that I should take it." By the time Bryson Tiller was onto his second album cycle with the gold-selling project True to Self that debuted at number 1, he had landed on the hip-hop Forbes Cash Princes list, earned another platinum plaque for his contributions to the DJ Khaled song Wild Thoughts with Rihanna, and was grossing an estimated 100,000 plus per show. Ultimately, it would be on Bryson Tiller's third album, Anniversary, that he would finally get his chance to work with Drake, who featured on the song Out of Time, that was also produced by 2 key producers from OVO Sound, 40 and 1985 from the rap group Division. So it seemed like he may have escaped the fate of most other OVO signees. But on your screen right here, you should see a video of Detail. So if you're trying to see that entire story documented on what happened, what his history was, the violence, whether he's in jail or not, whether he has potential to get out, and the charges that he's facing, click here. Get 1,000+ deleted videos and exclusive content at patreon.com/helloyassine.